Welcome back to another episode of the Jessica Ella podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Ella. And today's episode is part of the Why Do I series. We're doing another Why Do I series because it's been so popular. And the question today is,
why does rest make me more uncomfortable than being busy?
Why does rest make me feel more uncomfortable than being busy? First question.
Why does slowing down feel more threatening than exhaustion?
It's actually so common for men and women to feel safer in the hustle or safer in activation. There's a little bit of like society here. There's a little bit of like societal conditioning around, you know, when you're thriving, when you're like waking up at 5 a.m. and you're doing your workouts and you're smashing your business goals and you're doing all these things, everyone's like, you're Wonder Woman or, you're Superman. Like everyone looks up to you. Everyone praises you for pushing through. And up until recently, we have lived very much in that hustle culture of like, keep pushing, keep going. So you're getting this like praise and you're getting this validation by pushing through. I especially notice this with like women in business who have their own businesses and maybe are mums, and people used to call me Superwoman all the time. How do you do it? How do you run the business and have the kids? And it like really fueled me to keep going. So there's that piece of like validation, society's expectations. We're scrolling social media and we're seeing everybody's behind the scenes of their life, but we're not just comparing ourselves to the one person who's got the perfect diet. We're also comparing ourselves to the person that's got the perfect fitness routine, who their whole life revolves around that one thing. We're trying to kind of like piece it all together. So there's this expectation piece of keeping up with everything. But there's also our nervous system. There's also the fact that so many of us, when you go through periods of long-term chronic stress, and that doesn't have to be, in my case, that was extreme childhood trauma and chronic stress for 30, we're still counting, 36 nearly years. It doesn't have to be that extreme stress. It can be, short-term periods where you're in a really fast-paced role business where you're like constantly on all of the time. It can be a breakup where, you're stressed out all the time thinking about heartbreak. It can be like a divorce. It can be a number of different things, but any period of long-term chronic stress puts pressure and strain on the nervous system. And if we don't know how to regulate our nervous system, then we're just going to continue to stay in fight or flight. The longer that we stay in fight or flight, the more we get used to it and accustomed to it. And it actually starts to feel normal. And what happens is there's like this little part of us as well that notices like we get so much done when we stay in fight or flight. It's great energy. It's like a free energy drink. It's like a free coffee all day. If you've got this underlying fight or flight, you're getting things done. And so people they go through this period of long-term sort of chronic stress. Their nervous system gets dysregulated. They don't have the ability to regulate themselves and to come back into ventral vagal state of their nervous system. And so what happens is they just get stuck. They get stuck and they get addicted to it. And it's a really addictive place to be, as I said, because you get praise, because you get things done. It's quite high energy, and it can also feel kind of like exciting in a way to have this activation. So we go through these periods of long-term chronic stress and then we don't know how to pull ourselves back out of it. And so it becomes our new normal. And once it becomes our new normal, regulation and being in a regulated state actually feels, one, unsafe. It feels unsafe because what's happening is we're slowing down. And when we slow down, we feel like we're not safe because we're not going to get X, Y, Z things achieved. And if we don't achieve this goal and that thing, then everything's going to fall apart, blah, blah, blah. But what's actually happening as well is that when we do slow down and we regulate, and I find this with clients all the time, is that they slow down and they regulate and they come back into their body, and all of a sudden all of the feelings that they were running away from in the first place, the thing that caused them to get into this state, whether it was the heartbreak or whether it was the job or whatever, all of those things come back up to the surface. So all of a sudden I have these clients where I will regulate them and they'll start to feel more calm, and instantly that calm will be flooded with emotions that they've pushed down from that period of time where they cause that pattern in the first place.
Yeah. Nice. Is rest actually the problem, or is it what it brings up?
Yeah. So rest isn't actually the problem. It is 100% what it brings up. And people who have had childhood trauma, for instance, they would have lived in this state for a really long time. And so there's almost this like stacking effect of when something else bad happens and something else bad happens, they're dealing with it purely from fight or flight state, which means that when they do have to regulate and come back into their bodies, not only does it feel extremely boring and life can feel a little bit dull for that period of time, it also does bring up every emotion that you're avoiding, every pattern. And so people avoid it, or they think that they're doing it wrong. And this is probably one of the biggest misconceptions out there, is that people will be like, oh, I can't regulate. You actually can regulate. But when you regulate, all of those emotions come up, which can be really dysregulating, which is why you need to be like working with somebody who can actually regulate your nervous system and tell you, hey, now that you're regulated, all of those emotions are going to come back up. And for a period of time, you are going to feel really shit, and you're going to have to actually keep regulating your nervous system. And this is the thing as well that so many people don't understand, is that you don't just regulate once. You don't just regulate one time, and your nervous system's fixed. And you can't even do it if you've had a lot of trauma or a lot of periods of stress. Like if you've been in a career where you've been hustling for 10 years, it's safe to say that you're going to need at least a year to actually properly heal your nervous system, which is the advice that I've recently learned myself, which is why he's smiling at me. But it's actually going to take quite a while for you to reprogram, because for a number of reasons. One, the nervous system's extremely worn down and tired, but also you have all of these sneaky little patterns that try to pull you back into fight or flight because it feels so good, because it feels normal, because it feels more you. And I, like some people, and I'm sure could relate to this, I developed an entire personality around fight or flight, or around the activated version of myself. So I actually had to become someone different in order to be regulated. And that's not everybody. That's going to resonate more with my complex trauma galleys. But I feel like there is this level of like, you actually can't almost be the same person and live the same way that you were living, that the life that you designed when you're in fight or flight or sympathetic activation. You actually can't like keep being that same person. There either needs to be a period of time where you stop doing everything and you repair, or you have to like literally redesign your life around the regulated version of yourself and how they would show up and what they would do. So if you're a woman who has had a lot of trauma and it's led you to, and I'm like calling out a massive group of people here, and it's led you to the fitness industry, and you're waking up at 5 a.m. and you're drinking like pre-workouts and caffeine, and you're just like go, 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 go. And then you're running a business and you're doing all these things. These women talk about healing their nervous systems, but actually in order for them to properly heal their nervous systems, they have to completely redesign the way that they're living. And unfortunately for a lot of people, the gain that comes from continuing to be that version of themselves, whether it's followers, likes, whether it's just like a great body, is going to outweigh having a regulated nervous system, because it's not something that's like high on the priority list. It's not super shiny. It's becoming more common, but it's not that shiny to have a regulated nervous system as much as it is to have like super nice glutes or like or abs or whatever it is. Like it's one of those things that I think later on in time you start to go, oh, actually, I'm not happy. I'm doing all of these things and I'm still not happy. And that's where it really shows up, is the anxiety that they're going to feel, because burnout will get you to a point of anxiety and panic attacks and not being able to cope with everyday stresses. The anxiety that they're going to feel at some point is going to tip and outweigh the need for the other things. But for a lot of people, it doesn't get to that point until it's dire.
Yeah. Is that because it's safe? It feels safe for them?
Yeah, it feels safer for them to there's using that example specifically, there's a level of like, if I don't look that way, I won't be loved, I won't be accepted, I won't be wanted, I won't be desired. And if I'm not loved and accepted and wanted and desired, then I'm going to end up alone. And so there's like a lot of, again, social conditioning there around if I don't look a certain way, I won't be attractive to the people that I want to attract. So there's definitely that deeper cause there of like wanting to be validated or fit in. Not saying it's a bad thing at all. Like obviously I'm on my own fitness journey and like I'm not putting down that behavior and habit, but where it comes from is really important as well. So a lot of the time people can't regulate and stay in that regulated state because, like you said, it feels unsafe because of what they're going to potentially lose or what their mind is telling them that they're going to lose. And if they were to actually regulate in like the earlier stages and like quite regularly throughout that process, you can actually avoid burnout. Like you don't, but it's just when we're going so hard and we're not knowing anything or understanding anything about our nervous system that we don't even realize until the amount of women that come to me that are like, I have anxiety and it's just come out of nowhere. And then I ask them a couple of questions and I'm like, okay, well, it didn't come out of nowhere because you've had this and this and this happen and you've been pushing through and you're busy. And so it doesn't, that's just like a public service announcement to the entire world. Anxiety doesn't just come from nowhere. There's always a root cause, whether it be literally physically just coming from a dysregulated nervous system or whether it be coming from something that you're pushing down, something that you're not feeling. Body can learn as well that stillness equals danger. And this to me would fall more into the category of somebody who has had extreme trauma, because the idea here is that like freeze is an unsafe response. So a lot of the time, if we've had a lot of trauma, we learn that like when we're frozen, bad things happen. We have to dissociate. We have to find other ways to cope with that trauma. Fight or flight actually feels more safe because we're always ready to go. And if we're always ready to go and we're like technically fight or flight is you constantly scanning for threats and believing that there is a threat that's coming. And so what happens is if we become still and if we become regulated, and this is the thing that's got me like time and time again, is that it feels like if I'm not scanning for threats and I'm not intentionally like fucking myself up and with coffee and putting myself into fight or flight, like and intentionally working so hard and just getting myself so activated, if I'm not in that state, then I'm not ready. And a lot of women will relate to this, but you think like ready for what? And every single time there is something that's happened in the past or things that have happened in the past time and time again that they've got so used to things always going bad that you feel like you need to be in that state so that you're ready and so that you're alert. And stillness and being regulated feels like it's like taking off your armor. It's like it feels like going into a sword fight when they've got like full armor on and you're just going in your bikini or something. Like it literally feels so exposed and open and vulnerable because it's like anything could happen now and I'm not ready. And if you think about that from a physiological perspective, fight or flight sharpens your senses. So like your hearing is on high alert, your vision is sharpened, like everything is activated and ready to go. And if you think about it also from a physiological level, your digestion stops, which is why so many wellness girls have digestive issues. But your digestion stops because digestion isn't a priority, running from a predator is. So your senses are sharpened, your legs ready to roll. But it just keeps you in this state because it makes you feel like you're prepared. And until you uncover what it is that you think that you need to be on high alert for, you can't outrun that state. It will keep knocking at your door. And so for me, that's where that deeper work of Aruka comes into play, where you actually need to like find what is it that your brain and your body still thinks that it needs to run from. Because unprocessed traumatic memories, the body and the mind don't know when those are activated or when you're triggered. Your body and your mind doesn't know that that's in the past. It actually, the part of your brain that controls time goes offline and it feels like the past is in the present. And so if those are constantly running in the background because we've got multiple triggers, we just like literally feel like we're running from something all the time. And so when you go back in and you process that memory, not just visually with something like EMDR, but actually using something like Aruka, where we work with the memory visually, we work with it somatically, which is working with the body, the sounds, the movement, the things that wanted to come out. We're working with it energetically to shift the energy of the subconscious beliefs that you created, of the actual emotions that you're holding, the energy that's stored in the body, the energy that makes up the visual, in the actual visual images in your mind of the traumatic memory. When we're working with all of that and we're actually completing that process, the brain can know that that was then and this is now, and it can stop running from this invisible threat.
Cool. What happens in the nervous system when the distraction of busyness drops away?
So what happens in the nervous system when the distraction of busyness drops away? The perfect example for this is women who run businesses or are in careers, or even just women that have a job but also have like a really intense social life, and they go, and they get pregnant and they have a baby and they're stuck at home with the baby. Well, not stuck, but like that was my experience. But they're stuck at home with this baby. They've been running for decades unconsciously, thinking they're just living their best life. But actually they haven't been feeling anything because they haven't really been in their body. They've been partying and having a great time and living their best life and climbing the corporate ladder. But all of a sudden they land and they're at home with their thoughts and their feelings, and the baby that does not go in fast pace, they have to sit there and breastfeed for 2 hours. And there's this massive slowing down effect. Every single woman that has ever come to me with postnatal depression, it's not postnatal depression. It's everything that she was avoiding with that busy lifestyle catching up with her when she finally became still. And that happens with people with injuries. That happens with people with, different life experiences where they actually have to slow down. A lot of people that have like heart attacks and they're on bed rest, they have to slow down. A lot comes up and they have these like dark night of the soul or these like awakenings, but a lot of stuff comes up and they actually start working on their shit because they've realized that, it's all there. So mums are the perfect example, because what happens is that rest and that stillness and coming back into your body's like, okay, like here's everything that you've been holding. Here's everything that you haven't been thinking about. Here's what you actually feel. And sometimes it's not even as direct as like, you have a baby and then you're at home and you're stuck at home and you're thinking about all of these things that happened. You might not even have the actual visual memories coming back and be, ruminating on things. It might just be purely emotion. And so many people don't know what to do with that emotion because we were never taught what to do with our emotions and what emotions are and how they work. We were never taught that. So we feel the emotion and we're like, I feel really sad, like this is not right and I need some medication to fix that up, instead of actually going, hold on, what's this sadness telling me? Where's this sadness coming from? Is it new? If it's not new, where does it? And those are the sort of questions that it's really difficult to ask yourself. That's why you need a therapist. That's why you need somebody who can actually ask you the right questions and guide you to where this is actually coming from. But as I said, every woman that I've worked with who's had postnatal depression, it's gone back to childhood. It's gone back to teens. It's gone back to something far earlier than what's actually currently happening in the moment. And once they go back and they actually heal those past moments and those memories and they shift those subconscious beliefs, then all of a sudden they feel safe to be present with their babies and present in motherhood, and they get to actually enjoy it. And it's actually like the best thing ever to see. But I wish someone could have done that for me when I was in motherhood, because obviously I was learning all of this and studying and researching, but I was definitely nowhere near where I am now. So yeah.
Cool. How do you reteach your body that it needs rest, that rest is safe?
So the way that you reteach your body that rest is safe is with great difficulty. It depends on the level of dysregulation and burnout that you've reached. So if we're like in the early stages of anxiety, nervous system regulation tools are going to be key. And we've got a number of nervous system regulation tools that I teach in the Trigger to Thriving program in the very beginning of the program, because that's where everyone needs it first. But there's a scale from like, I've just started to feel a little bit anxious. There's been a couple of things that have like sort of happened in my life recently, all the way up to complex trauma where they've potentially been in survival and fight or flight their entire life, and literally, as I said, would need to create an entirely new identity, because your identity, when you've had a lot of childhood trauma, is adapted to that trauma. Like, so you learn who you are in the world and how you have to be based off the world that you're living in. So if we're living in a nice home and we're living in a nice, like, healthy, happy family, we learn that we, in order to survive, we've just got to be a kid. We've got to, there might be some little things there that we learn, but there's a scale there. So for people who have just got that little bit of anxiety, maybe don't have a lot of childhood trauma, nervous system regulation tools and doing them regularly is going to be ideal for them. And when I say nervous system regulation tools, I'm going to give you the biggest insight, the biggest like secret ever is that you can go and Google nervous system regulation tools, and I've got plenty in Triggered to Thriving, and there's so many out there that are being sold. Actually, what heals the nervous system is going slow, and like going slow for a period of time. So actually slowing down, and not necessarily slowing down your entire life, but like I know I used to brush my teeth like I was on crack. Like I would flow so fast, and I would vacuum the floors really fast, and I would do everything in fast forward. And I talked the rate that I'm talking now, I would have been on fast forward like times 3. Like I spoke so much faster. Actually slowing down is the most healing thing for your nervous system. Second to that is being outside in nature. Literally, like nature, especially places where there's like ocean or trees, getting out into like the forest and into like deep into nature, you'll find that the frequency that is actually like the vibrational frequency scientifically measured of nature and of the earth is the same frequency as a theta brainwave, which is a hypnotic brainwave. So a very relaxed brainwave. When we actually go out into nature, our nervous system regulates after 10, 15 minutes, naturally syncing with our surroundings. So getting outside, getting into nature is actually also extremely regulating for the nervous system. People with a lot of trauma will tell you that they go out into nature and they feel shit because they get regulated and then everything comes up to the surface. So if you're on that end of the spectrum, you're going to need to do some deeper trauma healing work. I'm not going to say no point doing nervous system regulation when you have trauma. There is a point, but you're going to have to do that like multiple times a day over a long period of time whilst doing the deeper work, because otherwise, I'm the perfect example of this, guilty as charged. I did the nervous system work, thought, nervous system's fixed, feeling great, didn't actually do a lot of the deeper level trauma that I needed to do, didn't process a lot of traumatic memories, and end up just dysregulated again, but not even realizing I was dysregulated because I was like, nah, I healed my nervous system. I'm sweet. So you actually have to do the deeper work. You actually have to, nervous system regulation isn't a fad, and it's not something that we just do for a little bit. It's a way of being. And like all of us could probably need to really adapt our approach to make sure that our relationships, our jobs, our routines are nervous system friendly.
What shifts when rest becomes regulation, not punishment?
For a long time, for me, rest felt like punishment. Like I would only rest when absolutely necessary, like when I was depleted, when I just had nothing left. And rest was actually, it felt like a luxury, not a necessity. And I think that's like the biggest shift that we need to make is like rest is not actually, like we're literally not designed to go all the time. There's just no other animal on this planet that goes all the time. Like every animal understands that we need periods of rest. Humans just, we're too intellectual. But we definitely need to make that shift from rest being something that is a luxury to, like, as I said, a necessity. And what happens then is, as I said before, it becomes a way of being. So it can be really difficult in the beginning to know, like, oh, how much rest do I need? And how, how much do I need to pull back and how much do I need to slow down? And that somebody might be thinking, like, what does that actually look like? And it's a really difficult question because it looks different for each person, because we all have different capacities. We all have different imprints of life and what the toll that life has taken on us. And I know that for people with, as I said, with complex trauma, there's going to need to be a long-term period of deep rest. Whereas for the person that's already got a pretty strong nervous system, they've been through a short-term period of stress and got stuck in fight or flight, a few weeks of doing some really powerful nervous system resets is going to get them back to a point where they can, do their normal daily routine. And it's going to look for them more like just things like meditation, like meditating daily, meditating maybe twice a day, or just little checkpoints, even just as simple as taking a pause and noticing, have I been holding my breath? And I do that all the time. And sometimes you're like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm just breathing. I'm just taking a breath because I forgot to breathe. Because sometimes we just get so wrapped up in what we're doing that we don't realize we're like, oh, hold on. Haven't taken a deep breath and felt in my body or come into my body. And for me, nervous system regulation really is that as well, coming back into your body and like landing in your body, and breath is the best way to pull you back in. So for anybody who, I guess, sometimes we can think that our nervous system is better than it is. But I think we all have an understanding of some of the ideas here is like, am I waking up stressed? That's a red flag. Am I rushing everywhere? Am I like in fast forward? Is everything a panic? Am I like screaming at the kids to get out the door? Am I always rushing? Like headaches is another really common one, and anxiety is obviously one of the biggest ones. If you're having anxiety, that's a pretty clear sign that your nervous system is dysregulated, as well as like, that afternoon slump that everyone talks about, nervous system not being able to sustain our energy throughout the day. It's because we're not checking in on our energy and taking a breath and coming back into our body. We're pushing beyond our limits. And so learning what our limits are and learning where our edge is. And we can push that edge a little bit, which is a whole other subject. Where you sit, it is a spectrum. Where you sit on that spectrum of nervous system dysregulation, from a little bit dysregulated to fully burnt out, is up to, you'll know where you sit on that scale. And the best thing that you can do is to book a one-on-one session, honestly, and to work with one of the Eureka therapists to uncover what it is that's got you there in the first place, and what that period of stress was, or what that trauma is that just keeps knocking at your door and causing that dysregulation. So thank you so much for listening today. I hope I've answered some of the questions and not just left you with more questions than I've answered. Thank you again for listening. Please remember to subscribe on whichever platform that you're listening on so that you can see our episodes as they drop in weekly. Share it with a friend if you know somebody who absolutely needs to hear this, and I'll see you in the next episode.